ประภาพันธ์ I'm from Agroecology
หน้าสมัชชาคนจนบำรุงค่าโยธานะคะซึ่งเป็นส่วนหนึ่งของสมัชชาคนจนก็ยินดีต้อนรับทุกท่านนะคะเข้าสู่การสัมมนาการพูดคุยกันในประเด็นที่สำคัญมากๆประเด็นหนึ่งของสัปดาห์สิ่งแวดล้อมแม่โขงอาเซียนนะคะหัวข้อที่เราจะคุยกันวันนี้เนี่ยก็ถือว่าเป็นหัวข้อที่พี่น้องสมัชชาคนจนแล้วก็ลาเวียคัมเปซินาจากขบวนการชาวนาสากลนะคะที่ทางสมัชชาคนจนเป็นสมาชิกอยู่ได้ให้ความสนใจมากนะคะหัวข้อในวันนี้เนี่ยที่เราจะมีการพูดคุยกันนะคะคือทุนนิยมในศตวรรษที่ 21 ระเบียงเศรษฐกิจการเปลี่ยนผ่านพลังงานและการแย่งยึดสีเขียว
So firstly, like we understand like each word, like the 21st century is like the modern the Christianity, like and in Thai year is like 2,500. Like and until like 2000 like 600 like who can live that long, like and we have began this decade this century like for a long time, and like what are the phase of capitalism, and will we survive like with this environmental damage and in exploitation. I don't think like we will survive, but like I don't know like what will happen to our children and what will happen to our planet. Maybe only the capitalism will survive. But we have to hope that like we have to find a way to survive among this. So I invite the speakers. So the first one, Leah. So the first one, Leah Pinheiro Barbosa, and then Peter Rosset, and then Barami Shairat. So I want to introduce them a little bit. So Leah is a professor on the sociology on the State University of Ceará in Presença, like Brazil, like the equivalent of northeastern of Thailand, but it is in Brazil. And Leah work with MST, the landless farmers, the landless peasant in Brazil. And Leah is also part of working group on agrarian reform of MST as well. And the professor like Leah like has written on so many things like on MST and on both Zapatista, the largest or like among one of the largest peasant movements. And another person here like Peter, we call him like grandmaster or like grandpa teacher like in agroecology school. He told me that he's retired, but he's still busy working. So like he's like former professor in Mexico, and now he is in Chulalongkorn University. Like many of you like may have heard of La Via Campesina. So Peter Rosset like was in the secretary team for a long time of La Via Campesina, and Peter is helping agroecology school in Latin America in so many places, and also like professor in Brazil. And another speaker, Barami Shairat from Assembly of the Poor, and everyone like may have heard of him as well. ก็ตอน so now like we begin, and like I'm gonna invite Leah to speak first, and Leah gonna talk about the situation in Brazil. อันเมื่อกี้ So I'm gonna talk about the land grabbing in Brazil. So
สวัสดีครับสบายดี I'm very happy to stay here with the pleasure to stay with Samacha Conchon in the room and in the panel. And I would like to thank Pian and all teams for the organization this event. And I call about the economic corridors, energy transition, and green grabbing in Latin America. English is not my language. I speak Portuguese. So I write and I will read some things for more easy for me to speak. So first of all, it's very important to understand the geopolitical context of Latin America. At the end, the 20th century, and what is mean for the energy transition process in our region. In 1994, we have the signing of NAFTA, and this led a reconfiguration of the capitalism, which became capitalism by disposition. In this case, the principal reason for the NAFTA is the energy vulnerability of the United States, especially the essentiality of oil and energy minerals to ensure economic, technological, and military hegemony. In this case, United States needs access for some minerals for guarantee his hegemony in the region. In the case of the NAFTA, Mexico is a strategic country because it's a country very rich in water, in land, in minerals, and the biodiversity. So Mexico entry in the NAFTA for guarantee the creation for the first economic corridor with Central America and for its water, mineral, and biodiversity research. So this is the principal reason for Mexico entry in the NAFTA. But there was, But in this case, the NAFTA not only is our interest in the land itself, but in the entire territory, in what is above the land, in the underground resources of the land. So if you see this image, this picture, the NAFTA represents for us in Latin America a control of our territory, and especially the territory of indigenous people, peasants people, and all people in the zone rural, where there are a lot of quantity of water and minerals for strategies for the United States. Represents to one dispute of the territory for water, minerals, seeds, wind, sun, and until cheap and or slave or labor. So 30 years ago, it started this process in Latin America. Some social movements and researchers in Latin America, when analyze this process, call one form total control with the form of existence, a control of the time of the woman, and the time of the nature, and a control about the living and now living beings. And in the social movements in Latin America, analyze too like a total spectrum welfare. And this form of control of the territory is a dispute over economic, technological, and military hegemony for the United States in other regions in Latin America. But this moment we have other problem, a global problem related about the climate crisis. And this starts other discourse in Latin America and the necessity about the investment in renewable energy. But this discourse into the governments and the corporation is a false discourse, because the discourse say we need to save the planet, but it's a discourse of governments, corporations, and international organizations only about environment responsibility, and assigns responsibility to society and the individuals, but conceals the social environmental consequence of the capitalism development model. And the discourse introduced to other aspects related about the how, when we can transformar, turn into, when can turn into everything in business. This is, for example, a new paper in my country, in the Noreste of Brazil, and called When the Sun and the Wind Turn Everything into Business. This map is of Brazil, and the northeast of Brazil was an epicenter for the energy transition, especially with the wind turbines, and as the country where the discourse is very, very hard into the government and the corporation. So, in the 2021 century, we can see a progress in the financing wind and solar power plants, and an increasing financiation of nature, and deepening of the land grabbing and green grabbing. Including now, in the case of Brazil, for example, the government and some corporations discussion about the offshore wind turbines. So it's not only the land in the soil, but the territory of the ocean for this kind of development. The Global Energy Monitor called about the countries where we can see a lot of investments in energy transition. And in Latin America, Brazil is the #1, but we have two: Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and Argentina, like the principal countries where we can see the investments in energy transition. But we observe a contradiction. We have, for example, we have in one case the renewables need land to be installed and minerals for wind turbines and solar panels. But for the turbines, we need a lot of mineral extraction. If for the mineral extraction, we requires a lot of water and causes social environment impacts, cancer, etc. So we have a contradiction in the model of mineral and energy transition. And this provoke expansion of mineral extraction has led to increasing water conflicts, result the corporation capital's role in the privatizations of water. So this is a big problem in Latin America, especially in the zone rural, and including the periphery, the big cities in Latin America. Other problem with this model of development is the conflicts. We can see in here the quantity conflicts in the countries, and this is a study for the Observatory of Mining Conflicts in Latin America. So today we have 284 conflicts and conflicts for water, and 31 conflicts involve mining projects in Latin America. In these countries, we can see the quantity for country. And we have also the cross-border conflicts in little regions into the Latin America. The next, please. Other project other project in Latin America is the green hydrogen. And Brazil is the pioneer in this process. Green hydrogen is not a fuel raw material that occurs naturally in its pure state, but a vector that allows the energy produced by winds and sun to be stored. Something that is not mentioned in the discourse of these new technologies based on debates about the energy transition is the intensive use of water. For example, in the case of hydrogen, the molecule is obtained from the electrolysis of water. For each ton of green hydrogen produced by electrolysis, an average of 9 tons of fresh water free of impurity is required. So all the time, the territory when we have clear water, this territory is affected for the corporation, especially it's a territory with the violence emerge in the relationship between the corporation and the territory and the people. So in this event yesterday, I could see some problems with the laws. And today I present all the mechanisms of this kind of dispossession in the territory. For example, in some countries, the territory is declared of interest of the union. In this case, people don't have autonomy to to stay in the territory or don't have autonomy for stop this project in the territory. Other mechanism is the lease contracts and land registry fraud in the case of, especially in Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, we have a lot of this case. Other mechanism is the no recognition of existing communities in the territory. Sometimes the government do a maps for the corporation in the territory cannot see all life or in the territory with the communities, with the social cultural life in this territory is occurring in the maps produced by the corporation or by the government. Environment degradation, violence of organized crime, environment racism, it's other mechanisms we can see in the context of Latin America. The social movement, especially indigenous movements and peasant movements, call this neocolonial logic. The same logic is historical logic in Latin America when the corporation and the government see the strategic economic zones like sacrificial territories for the development. The next, please. And with, I call about the NAFTA, but with the BRICS is the same logic. For example, today in Latin America, we can see the dispute between United States and China. In China, 12 years ago, it started investment in Latin America and invited Latin America and Caribbean countries to join the Belt and Road and invest over 60 billion in countries in the region for development infrastructure and start the economic corridors. For example, today we have the principal initiative is the Two Ocean Relay Connect, the Atlantic Ocean in Brazil and the Pacific Ocean in Peru. And China invests a lot of for the port of Shanghai, for the connect Shanghai and Shanghai like an alternative to the Panama Canal. So I can't finish. One more. So we can see Latin America a big business today with both development models in the same territory. In the hands, we can see the projects with the mineral extraction, and we can see in the same territory the energy transition like other project. The next. And I finish here. And the people ask, we want the territory for the development of the capitalism, or we want the territory from the life. This is the debate, the political debates in Latin America today with all organizations from Via Campesina, indigenous movement, peasants movements, about about the contradiction between these two movements. Thank you. Copo com K.
ก็ต้องขอบคุณอาจารย์ลีอานะคะคือฟังอาจารย์ลีอาพูดเนี่ยเรานึกถึงปีศาจหรือว่ายักษ์ตัวใหญ่ๆเนาะที่เข้ามากินเริ่มต้นก็ตั้งแต่กินพื้นที่กินแร่ธาตุกินแม่น้ำนะคะตอนนี้มันเริ่มกินอะไรที่มองไม่เห็นอย่างแสงแดดหรือลมละนะคะแล้วก็กินแค่พื้นที่เดียวไม่พออาจารย์ใช้คำว่าระเบียงเศรษฐกิจอย่างพวกเราเนี่ยที่เป็นชาวนาเราจะพูดถึงลุ่มน้ำเจ้าพระยาลุ่มน้ำโขงใช่ไหมคะเขาก็ใช้คำว่าระเบียงเศรษฐกิจเขาก็พูดถึงพื้นที่ขนาดใหญ่อย่างของอาจารย์ลีอาก็ได้พูดถึงพื้นที่ที่ครอบคลุมละตินอเมริกาทั้งหมดเลยนะคะทีนี้เดี๋ยวเราจะมาฟังอาจารย์ปู่ปีเตอร์ของเราบ้างนะคะอาจารย์ปีเตอร์จะพูดถึงหน้ากากสีเขียวของความขัดแย้งในที่ดินแต่ว่าจะพูดในบริบทของเม็กซิโกนะคะแต่ว่าพออ่านหัวข้อของอาจารย์เนี่ยมันนึกขึ้นว่าโฉมหน้าสีเขียวเนี่ยเขาคงไม่ได้หมายถึงเขียวแบบธรรมชาติเนาะภาษาไทยเรามีประมาณว่าถูกบีบจนหน้าเขียวอะไรอย่างเงี้ยลองฟังอาจารย์ปีเตอร์ดูนะคะว่าอาจารย์หมายถึงหน้าสีเขียวแบบไหนนะคะ
Thank you very much, Anne, and thank you also to Meo for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to give some example about the conflicts in my country, in Mexico, that arise from the green environmental discourse of the governments and the companies. Very similar to what Ajahn Leah talked about, but I'm going to give some example from Mexico. There is Mexico between the United States and Latin America. And Mexico give as example, supposedly as a positive example in the international climate negotiations, which are called COP every year between governments and companies. Next. So the context for what I'm going to say about Mexico is what La Via Campesina calls the false solutions to climate change. We don't believe in Via Campesina that our governments are really interested in solving the climate problem. We think that they are interested in negotiating money with the private sector and with international donors. And these false solutions, for the company, it's a way to make money. But for the people who live in the rural area, it means land grabbing by company, by government, and also means more land conflicts. So a number of these false solutions we have seen discussed in this week here, such as everything having to do with carbon, carbon credit, red carbon offset. Ajahn Surin just talked about in the earlier session. We also have the so-called renewable energy that Ajahn Leah talked about, the solar panel, the wind turbine, and here we also have governments now pushing new dams. I know Samachak-Onchon and Thailand already have long history of resistance to dam construction. But the green discourse mean many governments now want to construct more dams. And also the green hydrogen that Professor Leah mentioned. We also have all of the lie by big company that they will be net zero or carbon neutral. We have the expansion of national park and biological reserve, taking the land away from the villager. We have the forest cover commitment that the governments make. So for example, I believe Thailand claimed to go for 40% forest cover, and what that means in practice is take the land away from the villager. Agrofuel and biofuel and many other. So Via Campesina says no to the false solutions of green capitalism. And yes to agroecology or cassette niwet as a real solution. What happened? So for example, like Brazil, Mexico have many plantation of wind turbine, and these wind turbine, they are companies who take the land away from peasant people in order to generate electricity for industry that are far, far, far away from the village. Maybe the village who have to live next to this have no electricity at all, but their land being taken for electricity generation. And as you can see, many people movement, they protest this kind of land grabbing in Mexico. Also, well, we have the same kind of resistance to dam construction in Mexico as Samaka Konchon have in Thailand, and facing many new dam construction under the green or environmental discourse. So you see the protest in Mexico. Next. So I would like to say that these kind of false solutions, they have a way that they can be good or okay, and a way that they can be not good. So if we look at the wind generation of electricity, if the peasant family have small wind turbine on the roof of their house, so they can have refrigerator, TV, cooking, internet, lights, this is no problem because not stealing the land from anybody. Still have a problem, but I'll talk about that in the future. But in terms of land grabbing, no land grabbing. But when the company does the generation of electricity from the wind, the company grabbed the land from many thousands of peasants, lose the land. So it's different if the decentralized at the family level or centralized at the company level. The impact very different. Next. The same with the solar panel. No problem, solar panel on the roof of your house. But big problem when the energy company take the land of thousands of villagers and build solar park. The solar park heat the atmosphere in the area so much that no bird, no tree, no person, no animal can live anywhere near the solar park. Next. And the same with the dam. Now we can buy very small water turbine that any village can put into the canal or the local stream to generate their own electricity for the village. So no land grabbing or no displacement with a small-scale water turbine. But of course, the big dam mean thousands of villagers, they will lose their land, their territory, their forest, everything. Back. So in the three case, wind, solar, hydropower, we see a big difference if concentrated by company or government or decentralized by people. But still have some problem. Next problem, which is the problem that Ajahn Leah mentioned. Because the company that make the solar panel, even for your house, the company that make the small wind turbine, even for your house, they still are using the critical mineral or the rare earth mineral that is causing a big expansion of mining. And many peasant, many indigenous people, they lose their land from this mining, and many environmental destruction. You can see the 5 countries with the most mining for these minerals that are for the green energy generation are China, USA, Myanmar, Australia, and Thailand. But even in Mexico, even not top 5, we have big problem with mining for lithium, for example. Bolivia also lithium. So we are going to have armed conflict to control these mines like in Myanmar. So I think important to say that no alternative energy come for free. All of them have bad impact for peasant, for villager. So therefore, better for our societies to use less energy. Because all of these solutions, they are false solutions. I want to give one example from Mexico of the carbon credit. But first I want to say that the carbon credit come in 2 different ways. Supposedly carbon credit is for a industry, a company that make a lot of pollution to compensate for their pollution. And so they can continue to pollute. Obviously, this is a bad thing, but they do it in 2 different ways. Either the rich people or the company buy the land or steal the land from the peasant, and then they plant tree and they get money for carbon credit. So we call this green grabbing, green land grabbing. And this happened a lot in Mexico. Or they don't take the land from the peasant, but they pay the peasant to grow the tree. And in that case, the company get most of the money, but the peasant get a small part of the money. So I want to show the example of one community in Mexico, very, very typical for many other cases of carbon credit in Mexico, but is the case where the company pay the peasant to grow the tree for the carbon credit. So in Mexico, most of the agriculture of the peasant is itinerant agriculture, similar to Karen or Hmong in Thailand. In Thailand, I know this is minority, but in Mexico is majority. about 60% of the peasant in Mexico, they do the rotational farming. And in the rotational farming, the village have community forest, have the area where they grow the annual crop, in Thailand rice, in Mexico corn, and then they manage the regrowth of the forest over many years, and then they return and plant corn, or in the case of Thailand, rice again. This system in Mexico have been shown to be sustainable during 8,000 years. No reduction in productivity, and even before the Spanish conquer Mexico 500 years ago, this system supported higher population than today in the areas where it practiced. So very productive and very sustainable. Next. But in this community, the government official come together with the company to a farmer community called Skolelte. In this community, like most of Mexico, they have community land title. Mexico history different from Thailand history. 100 years ago, Mexico had armed revolution and do agrarian reform. So 50% of all land in Mexico is under community land title, not individual land title. And better community land title than Thailand, because the recent community title from coup government only give village something like 20 years. But in Mexico, community land title is permanent, so much better than 20 years. So the community have community land title. They manage the land as community. And they have an assembly or a samacha of the older people in the community, the wise man and woman, who make the decision and the rules for the community. So the government official and the company come to the community and they say, we will pay you salary to plant tree for the company, and the company get income from carbon credit and pay some percent of that income to you as salary. But you have to cut down the trees that are already there in your forest to plant the company trees. So the samacha of the older people in the community, they say no, the community the village not accept, because we don't believe that we want to cut down our trees in order to plant the company trees. We love our forest, we not want to cut our forest. But problem with the young men in the community. The young man, no job, very angry. And the young man, they say, we want to enter the project because we want salary. So a group of young men, they say they want to do it, and they enter into conflict with the samacha of the community. And they broke off 40% of the village land from the community land title to become like private for them. And they signed the contract with the company. They cut all the forest, they burn the forest, they plant the company tree. But then they find out big problem. They cannot live from the salary that the company pay them. Because in the contract, it not say how much your salary will be. I think same in Thailand, that the contracts say, after you plant the tree, we have to have an outside company come and certify how much carbon the tree is saving. Then we will see the value of that carbon on the carbon market. Then 80% of that money go to the company, and then 20% commission for villager for take care of tree. So the young men, they imagine this will be big money, but in practice, only very small money. Cannot live on small money. So they decide they will plant food under the tree, between the company tree. But then the government official come with the company representative and say, the contract prohibit plant food under the company tree. You have to kill all the food crop. So they say, okay, we cannot grow food. We cannot live on the salary. So they decide, the young men, they decide, we cut all the tree. We cut the company tree, we sell for firewood. And we go back to plant the traditional system. But then the company go to the court and say that they destroy the private property of the company because the tree belonged to the company. So the judge issue order to arrest all of the young men because they destroy company property. So they ran away. All the young men, they ran away. Nobody knows where they are today. So what is the result of this project for the village? They lost 40% of their forest and had it burned, destroy. Divide the community in two parts that fight with each other. Lose most of the young men from the community. And so we can say that the conclusion was very bad for the village. And I want to close by saying that this is just one case of one village, but is very typical of many, 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 many cases in Mexico. One thing that almost always happens is conflict inside the community. Some villager, they say, we want salary from company. Other villagers say we don't want the project. So internal conflict, internal division. The same with the wind turbine farm. The same with the solar panel plantation. The same with the mining concession. The company and the government come and they say, we will give a certain amount of land to the villager for the land, for the wind turbine, for the solar panel, for the mine. One half the villagers say, we want to sell, we want money. The other half of the villagers say, we don't want to sell, we want to remain in our forest and our land. And so an additional bad impact of all of these projects is they create division and they create conflict inside the communities. And I just want to close with that because in this week we hear about many problems from these false solutions, environmental problem, social problem, economic problem. But one very serious problem is how it destroyed the I don't know how to say the organizational fabric, the community fabric, the way that the neighbor they live together for a long time, but now they're fighting with each other because of these projects. So for this and many reasons in Mexico, Via Campesina say no to the false solution of climate change. Thank you.
เดี๋ยว It's okay. ฟังดูแล้วเราคงหน้าเขียวเนาะคือจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยนะคะอาจารย์ปีเตอร์เนี่ยพูดชัดหลายอย่างเลยนะคะว่าถึงแม้ว่าหัวข้อวันนี้เราจะพูดถึงทุนนิยมในศตวรรษที่21เนี่ยแต่ว่าจุดเน้นย้ำมันน่าจะอยู่ตรงคำว่าทุนนิยมเนาะว่าเราจะเอามันอยู่ในมือเราหรือว่าทำลายลงไปได้ยังไงก่อนสิ้นศตวรรษนี้ไม่อย่างนั้นเราจะตายก่อนนะคะโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งสิ่งที่สำคัญก็คือว่าเราจะเห็นถึงการปะทะการซื้อคืออาจารย์ปีเตอร์พูดหลายเรื่องที่ต่อจากอาจารย์ลีอาแต่ว่าที่สำคัญก็คือเรื่องของขบวนการชาวนาเราจะจัดตั้งกันยังไงนะคะเหมือนอย่างตอนที่เราเริ่มวิดีโอของลาเวียคัมเปซิน่าเราจะเห็นถึงขบวนการชาวนาระดับโลกนะคะคือพวกทุนนิยมเนี่ยมันไปทั่วโลกนะคะพวกเราชาวนาก็ต้องสามัคคีกันทั่วโลกเหมือนกันนะคะเดี๋ยวจะอาจารย์ปีเตอร์ได้แตะในเรื่องของอธิปไตยทางอาหารแล้วก็สิทธิของชาวนาอยู่แล้วนะคะเดี๋ยวพี่บารมีก็จะต่อเลยนะคะในเรื่องของแนวทางจอมปลอมนะคะเปลี่ยนวิกฤตเป็นกำไรบนความเสียหายของอธิปไตยทางอาหารและสิทธิของเกษตรกรอันนี้เราจะฟังจากกรณีปัญหาของเมืองไทยแล้วลองเปรียบเทียบดูนะคะจากเม็กซิโกอาจารย์ปีเตอร์เสนอทางออกว่าเราจะต้องกลับมาอยู่เป็นชุมชนนะคะถักทอชุมชนเราให้เข้มแข็งมากขึ้นเดี๋ยวลองฟังดูว่าพี่บารมีจะมีสถานการณ์
We find solutions. So hello everyone. So as I said, I am from Assembly of the Poor, and or we are called LP as well, and like it has been filed like for over 30 years. So like during the time that it was filed, that it was the end of 20th century, and now we like still remain in 21st century. We are the people who are impacted by the dams, or like forest reserve declaration, or like people who are facing like their state land grabbing or features, or people who are workers, or like coconut farm workers. We have like members from 27 provinces in the country. So what I want to say that we are a production of the 21st century capitalism. We are the production that no one wants to talk about. We are the byproduct. Like they don't want to say that this is a byproduct of development. And like that's why we like have to protest, and we have to say that like okay, you have to respect us. You have to see us. And whenever like we say something like this, what we face is that like the reaction, the violent reaction from the state. Like we were called radicals. We are called communists. We are called like people who receive like money from the international to destroy the country. Like we were arrested. We have like a group, an organized group to clash us. So like people who fight against Pak Mun Dam, many of them they know that IGAT support the another group to like to use violence against us in our fights. and we always face these oppression by the state. The state is the, the state that I mentioned is the tool of capitalists. But I don't mean that I don't mean to say that like the capitalist doesn't like react because some companies that are seeking profits and supporting the state, they use more like tricky like retaliation. They are trying to reorganize the world. They're trying to reorganize the world by developing agreement to like exploit the trade, and it's called trade free trade agreement, and they build like many things, many agreements to like grab like genetics from us, and then they call it GMO. They create patents. They create patents system so that they can we all have to face the consequence. And like we try to voice it. We voice it loudly, and then like the capitalists, they're scared, they are shocked, and then they retreat, and then they build a mechanism, and then they build the UN climate agreement or UNFCCC, which is a tool for greenwashing for them. So what UNFCCC create is that like they're trying to advertise that climate crisis is from everyone. Everyone caused climate crisis, not the capitalism. So like people like us are say like they saying that like we are like, oh, we are part of the climate crisis and we all have to bear the responsibility. And then they saying like, okay, you should decrease your plastic consumption. Like so like the retail store, they stop like giving away plastic bags for consumers. And then like the customer, they have to prepare the plastic bags themselves, and they start selling plastic bags to us, like from free bags becomes like bags with price, like, and they can profit from this as well, like from 20 cents, they like okay, 1 baht per bag, and if you buy like 100 baht stuff, you get free plastic bag. What does it mean? The retail shop that we used to have, they decrease their own capital, like they decrease their own cost, like of buying plastic bag, and then they gain profits from selling plastic bag. And basically it's just a scheme for us to buy more from them. And in the end, they said that like we help save the earth. They declare it, and they advertise that like, oh, we help save climate crisis. So this is the sample of greenwashing. Does it like really resolve the issue? Like because the plastic bag factory, does it go out of business? No, the business, the plastic bags still the same. And like these plastic factories, they like produce like a thinner plastic bag, and then they said it's biodegradable, safe for the environment, but it's carry less thing, it less durable. So now like we buy more from them, and then the plastic factories like grow more, they gain more profits. So for me like this lead to more climate crisis. So after they're trying to create the belief that this is individual responsibility, they're not satisfied yet. Like they're saying that other people are evil and themselves they themselves are the people who support and resolve the problem so that the evil doers can become the good person again. And then the companies, they do the operations. They do the operations like by creating false solution. They prepare for it a long time, but they cannot declare it clearly in policy because otherwise in the politician they will not go along with them because we the people we are voters for politician. So the company they wait for the opportunity, the chance. And in 2014, we faced the coup d'etat, the military government. The first thing they do is the forest reclamation policy or the land grabbing. That's the most prioritized thing from the junta. But they are saying that they try to reclaim the forest from the capitalists, but what they do instead, they grab the land from the people, from the farmers, from the village. So พวกคุงกะแต in Nakhon Phanom people, they also face the forest reclamation policy. They were arrested, they were charged, they were brought into court. But it's not used for forest. It is used for special economic zone because it is next to Mitrapap Bridge. So how we will solve the climate crisis, how we will solve the environment issue. And actually the forest reclamation policy is they want to do the legal adjustment so it can fit the 20-year national action plan on forest reserve, on national park and wildlife sanctuary. So that they want to, because they want to increase the forest cover area. And people who live in Bungkana and then their area were declared wildlife sanctuary, but Nong Kunting is actually the wetland area, so it doesn't increase any forest cover at all. And apart from this, they are trying to establish land policy, national land policy committee, and they're saying that they want to make land reform through the National Land Committee, คอทช, which is authorizing author and then they say that we have to accept that we are encroachers, and then we are guilty, and we will be okay with their conditions. And one of their condition is that we have to do the reforestation. We have to do the for we have to plant trees. So in Pupalek as well, this area it was proposed into คอทช, National Land Committee, and then you have expiration date. You can stay until one point, because the thing is that if the forest grow, the company or the state, they cannot make money out of it again. So that's why they made the condition that people have to leave the area. And in agriculture, and in agriculture, and they're saying that they will support โคก หนองนา model. But โคก หนองนา is actually changing many landscape. But โคก หนองนา is not the main problem. The main issue, the main agenda that they want, is that they want to support digital agriculture, or they use smart, using drone, spraying hormones to plants, and people can looking at it from screens, and they're looking okay when to water the plants. And does it actually reduce the production cost? But these technologies are from like extractive industries, and then like it release like carbon emissions, and it damage the planet more than us, much more than us. So this digital agriculture in massive scale, so like its background is actually like large carbon emission. It doesn't resolve any climate crisis at all. And more than that, they are trying to amend the the Agricultural Seeds Act so that they can monopolize the patents more and create more incentives for the seed engineer. And the seed engine, and what does it mean, seed engineering? Seed engineering are actually destroying biodiversity. And they were saying like they're gonna do it like by 2030, like uh, like within these 5 years. They are saying that like okay, they are trying to increase the biodiversity area, like in terrestrial and also in ocean. But instead, you are trying to do like seed engineering. How can this like relate? How this relate to one another? And also like in energy system, you see that like they support like sugarcane, they support biofuel power plants, and like the sugarcane factory is just like a front. What they actually want to do is the biomass power plant, and like it's not enough because like the electricity has to come from somewhere else as well. They support solar farm, support like the hydropower dams to grab the land and destroying the forest. And for solar farms, it's also from in extractive industry, like what Leah and Peter said. And for wind farms, like Kampalai, and like for Kampalai people, they said that like there are wind farms in the area. And what wind farms create is like land grabbing, noise pollution, and then the cattle, like the cattle are scared. You cannot raise the cattle there. So for the battery to store electricity for solar farms, the source of the battery is sort of the battery is from like all the carbon inducing activity, carbon emission activity. So these are the base of greenwashing. And then Prayut government said state in COP on in 2021, like Thailand will achieve like zero carbon within 40 years, and will reach like carbon neutral within 5 years. And then they're trying to do all the BCG, bio circular green economy, like what they did in EPIC model. So now like it become like the main policy for every government. The impact is that the impact is that every sector they are trying to grab this opportunity to like make the most out of this policy. They are trying to pass their laws to accommodate that. Like for example, like people try to open the area for the forest concession, like without asking people, like do they consent? Do they want it? And the Natural Resource Promotion Department, they changed its name to Climate Change Department. And then they are trying to like establish an organization to support carbon credit, and they are trying to like make bonds, climate change bonds, and like all the scholars like they pretend that they are knowledgeable on this so they can receive research funding. So like whatever any government, like everyone like focus on it. Like no matter which part of parliament you in, are you in the ruling party or you're not, but you they all like support this. So like they and they say that like the community forest like doesn't make any use. So why don't you sell it? Some NGOs some NGOs, some NGOs like say that like the thing is like farmers or peasants they say that like the community forests are our life, but some NGO like the mediator NGO they say that like why don't you make use of carbon credit? So we support cooling the planet, but when they are trying to pass the Clean Act, Clean Air Act, the parliament like cannot pass the vote because the MP were not in place. And then like the thing is with the Clean Air Act, all the Chamber of Commerce they send a letter like they are against this act. So it's not true. Like what they propose the solutions is false. So what happened is that everyone like living in reality, like carefree reality. It's like we are not worried about the climate change solutions or these proposed solutions at all. They are saying that like okay, actually what they're saying is like how can we make profits from the climate solutions? And what I'm trying to say that is the false solution. And I'm trying to say that like for us, like if we are poor people, if we are still accepting this, our lands will be grabbed, our lives will still be full of suffering if we accept these false solution. So thank you.
นะคะเพราะว่าเนื้อหาแน่นมาก
I didn't cut him off
ช่วงแรกเราเริ่มช้าไปนิดหน่อย
and like
ก็เป็น
it's like
น้อยเผื่อใครจะก็ได้อยู่นะคะใครจะมีคำถามแลกเปลี่ยน
so anyone has questions uh
มาข้างหน้าเลยใครมีไหม
ก็มีคำถามหนึ่งนะคะแล้วก็มีคอมเมนต์นะคะ ก็มีคำถามหนึ่งนะคะสำหรับปีเตอร์นะคะแล้วก็ลีอานะคะก็ในประเด็นนะคะก็ประเด็นในเรื่องสองขั้วนะคะว่าแบบไหนดีแบบไหนไม่ดีเนี่ยค่ะ
providers because last years I have been to a Mel Asai event after the Mel event as well, where the activist artists in Bangkok they invite Mae Sompong from Pak Mun Dam, who have been struggling against the dam and IGAT for many decades. To perform like storytelling, performing arts about her struggle and stories. But there was also like an academic economist actually who is in like a advisor or consultant in one political party, the Orange Party, as well in the think tank, and he comments about the things that you just provide an example that. Everyone should be like prosumer in like producer and consumer for energy, because he can establish some sort of solar cell in his house, and he got like negative electricity where he can that he can produce each year, and he can say that oh, he can sell that electricity to EGAT or others by establish some sort of that infrastructure in his house as well, which this to me I think is not like everyone, especially like people here that could afford some sort of the thing that he built in his house and become prosumers, you see. So my question is that your example is not about the scaling, but it's about the ability to define and decentralize the energy, and it's not the energy transition which affects or impact a lot of people or land grabbing. Is that correct for my understanding? As well as I think yesterday our friends from a movement of people who are affected by the Amazon proposed the word people energy sovereignty as well in regarding the energy transitions, which I think if there will be a chance, because the theme for this event is about the fake green or the ways that the principles that the capitalists and corporates try to hijack these things from us, right? So my question is that for your example and many future projects that might come from them, something, how can we prevent our principle or our stance to be hijacked for that sort of things, such as the prosumer that I just provide an example for that ivory tower academic or whatsoever ครับก็พอดีมีคำถามเอิ้นไปแล้วนะ
¿Quieres decir algo? Okay. Yo hablo así. ¿Quieres decir algo? Okay. So I think I understand the question. I think that the important thing is they try to lie to us. For example, they say nothing wrong with a solar panel, so therefore you should accept solar park, but they don't explain to us that they're not talking about the small solar panel in your house. They're talking about the big land grabbing of a big area. And I think that people's energy sovereignty could mean that we, for example, in the village could have our own managed energy system. But I also wanted to point out that even the solar panel we have in our house or the small windmill can have implication in terms of mining, expansion of mining, for example. So I think the big solution is that the big polluters, that means countries in the north, that means China, and also in the countries in the south, that means the big industrial capitalist, the transportation system, they have to reduce their consumption of energy. Not necessarily the poor people, but the big company and the big country, they are responsible for most of the problem. It's not the small person or the small country that's the cause of the problem. The problem of the big industry or the big company or the big country using too much energy, this will not be solved by solar panel. This will not be solved by windmill. This will not be solved by electric car. It can only be solved by them reducing their consumption drastically, because they're a small minority of the people, but they are consuming most of the energy and causing most of the climate change. I don't know if that really answered the question, but that's what I can say.
And it's necessary to have clear that all production of renewable energy in Latin America, for example, is for supply the energy in Europe, because there the country live a big energy crisis for the war between Russia and Ukraine. So this is the neocolonial logic. our countries is the zones of sacrifice for a development, a model development different for people needs. And we need question about if you need more cars, more cell phones, or if you need a popular sovereignty in the public transport, for example, in our houses, in the schools. So this is the debate, the necessary debate in the society and in our social movements.
working สงสัยเราไม่มีเวลาอีกแล้วนะคะถือว่าขออนุญาตสรุป
out of time, so maybe we conclude. Maybe I don't want to talk about problems that much, so I just want to say that like the capitalism, like they refuse to die. Maybe like we die before capitalism. So they are like the hungry spirits, like the demons that eats everything, eats the brick, eats the forest, eat the air, and eat the seed, grab the seeds from us. So like there are many problems. So I see like in Thailand and in other country as well. So like to conclude from these three speakers, so can we say about the solutions? The solution, the first one is like to understand the capitalism, like Leah was saying about the neo-colonial imperialism. So we have to understand it's not only transnational companies. We are also talking about like the mechanism like UNFCCC or like the seeds agreements or you pop. So we have to understand these as well. And the second thing is that we have to reduce the energy consumption and then like reduce or like decrease the development project. The capitalism is too big, it's too large. We have to reduce it. Like in the planet we have so many things to do. Like why do we have more than like we have too many things to consume. And then the third thing is that like we have to build this community, because the capitalism they are trying to trick us, to trick the young generations to go to the city. So like for example, like when we fight the capitalism, like they brought us to the city, but it's like not. We should go back to our home and start to fighting from our land. And the fourth thing is, so the capitalism they try to like say that like it's individual fault. Everyone should reduce their plastic consumption, and then like everyone has to buy carbon credit. So we will be the hero who save the world. But we are deceived. And these are false and false solution, because they thought that it's individual responsibility. But actually, like we have to make the change in the system. So what I want to leave here, as like we are speaker here, as a speaker here, are part of La Via Campesina and also like Assembly of the Poor, and many people here are from Via as well. So this September, like 10 September, we have the we have the day of the action, like to go against the free trade agreements. So October, 16 October, we have the food sovereignty day. So like to defeat capitalism, we use food sovereignty. And in November, we have like ending violence against women day, and women are like the value fighter, the forefront fighter for food sovereignties. So even though like we see a lot of problems from three speakers, we still have solution. So now like maybe like we leave this room with hope and with courage, and we continue our fight. Like we unite all the fights, and then we unite all the hope. And AOP said that. So like edible democracy, and then the policy, the politics that see the people. So thank you everyone. I wish you all the happiness and the power to the people.